Hello guys, I hope you're doing well. In today's video we're going to be doing some maintenance on my jungle aquascape aquarium. The scape has been running for a year now and I think it's time to give the plants a big trim. The first thing I'm going to do is remove some of the water from the aquarium. This will help to stop any water from splashing out the aquarium while I'm doing the maintenance on it. The first plant I'm going to be trimming is the Cryptocoryne balancei. The leaves on this crypt grow really long. In my tank they're about 40 centimeters long at the moment, and now the leaves are starting to block some of the light from reaching the bottom of the tank. So I'm going to cut the really long leaves off and also thin out the Cryptocoryne balancei. This plant really helps to create that jungle kind of vibe I'm going for with this aquascape. The leaves provide a lot of cover at the surface of the aquarium. This is really good for the Chiliobasbos, which spend a lot of time at the top of the tank. But like I said earlier, the leaves are starting to block out the light reaching the bottom of the tank, and I think it's starting to affect some of the growth for the Helianthemum telengreen. So I'll be trimming the Cryptocoryne balancei quite harshly. It grows fairly quick in my aquarium, so I don't mind doing this. The next plant I'm going to be trimming is the Cryptocoryne wendetii tropica. This plant has really been thriving in my aquascape. The leaves have also started to grow really long too, they're almost reaching the top of the aquarium. But I've started to notice that the larger leaves are blocking out some of the light for the smaller leaves down below. Since these smaller leaves can't get any light, they start to melt a little bit. So I hope by trimming off the larger leaves, the smaller leaves will get some more light. I want to try and encourage as much new growth on the crypt as I can. I also want to try and expose some of the hardscape which has been hidden away by this crypt. Since the larger leaves are so broad, they can cover the hardscape pretty easily. I've also found that when you do a harsh trim on crypts, they start to grow back thicker as well. The main mother plant gives off more runners, which helps create more of a bushy kind of look. As I go along trimming the plants, I like to remove all the excess leaves. It's important to remove any dead plant matter or plant trimmings from your aquarium. When you let these leaves rot in your aquarium, organic matter will be produced. Algae can then use this organic matter to grow, and since algae grows really quickly, it can overtake your aquarium really quick as well. Here's the point where I decided I'm going to trim the crypts back even more. I'm just trying to trim all the tall scraggly leaves. I think these leaves make the scape look a bit too messy. Ideally I wanted the crypts to grow quite low. It would have been nice if they stayed about half the height they are now, and this would allow the manzanita to show up more prominently in the scape. The next crypts I'm going to be trimming is the Cryptocoryne wendetii green. Over the past few weeks these crypts have started to grow really tall. The leaves now reach the top of the waterline in my aquarium, so that's about 30 centimeters high I think. Something interesting with this crypt is that it's starting to develop brownish shades on its leaves. I think this is because as the leaves reach the top of the surface they're receiving more light, which means they'll start to produce more browner tones in them. So I'm going to trim all the large leaves off and neaten them up a little bit. I like how this crypt has become like a nice tall background plant. It really has filled in the gaps at the back of the aquarium. And the last crypt I'm going to be trimming today is the Cryptocoryne wendetii green gecko. This is a variant of the Cryptocoryne wendetii green. Under the right conditions, the leaves will start to develop a brown strip down the middle of them. The brown strip really contrasts well with the bright green leaves of this crypt. In my setup I think this crypt isn't getting enough light, which is why it hasn't developed this brown strip yet. It could also be because I wasn't sold a Cryptocoryne wendetii green gecko. Instead I might have been sold just a regular Cryptocoryne wendetii green. So it can be hard to tell. I might mess around with the light settings to see if I can get that brown strip to develop. But in the meantime I'm going to trim this crypt back a little bit. I want to try to create a bushier look so it fills out this side of the aquascape a little bit more. So what I'm doing now here is I'm just trying to thin out the Javafen tridents a little bit. I'm just removing some of the excess plantlets that are grown on the leaves of the Javafen. I decided I wanted to trim the Helianthemum telengreen carpet this month. It's been growing really well in my tank, especially with the lower lighting. Since the scape has been set up for a year, the carpet has grown really thick. All the runners have started growing between each other, which is making it a little bit difficult to trim the plant. This also makes it very hard to clean any debris that get stuck in the carpet. I have thought about thinning out the carpet by manually removing some of the runners, but I think if I remove these runners it will disturb the substrate a little bit too much, and it will just make a massive mess in my aquarium. But overall I'm so glad I chose this carpeting plant. It's been super easy to grow, especially in a tank that has no CO2. I think in the future I might make a video about this plant. I think it's a really good plant for beginners to use, especially if they're new to keeping plants. And as you can see it's super easy to trim as well. You just use a pair of aquascaping scissors and it's pretty easy to cut. I guess the only downside I can think of with this plant is that there's going to be a lot of trimmings that you got to clean up at the end. But I think that's a small sacrifice for such a nice carpeting plant. I find it easiest to remove most of the Helianthemum telengreen trimmings by using my hands as a scoop, and then later I'll go back with a net just to get rid of all the excess bits. Now that most of the plant trimming is done, I'm going to siphon out the rest of the water. I usually change about 25% of the water every week. This process just helps to make sure there's no excess nutrients in the water column, and hopefully this will reduce any algae issues that might occur. Luckily this week I haven't had much algae growing on the glass, but I'm still going to just run my algae scraper against the glass. If there is a thin layer of algae starting to grow on the glass that I can't see, it's better just to remove it sooner rather than later. So with most of the maintenance now done, it's time to fill up the tank with some fresh clean water. I always try to make sure my water is at least room temperature before I re-add it to the aquarium. You don't want to cause any massive temperature fluctuations in the aquarium. This may stress the fish and shrimp out in your aquarium and you don't want that happening. Now I'm going to run my net over the top of the aquarium. I just want to make sure I catch all the excess plant matter that's floated to the top of the water. Like I said earlier, I want to try and avoid any organic matter being produced in the aquarium so I can avoid algae spikes. I think I need to get a smaller net though, because it's getting a bit difficult to scoop up some of the smaller bits that get trapped in between the hardscape and some of the plants. And finally, the last thing I wanted to do is just trim a little bit more of the Cryptocoria Wendelsi tropica. I just wanted to thin out the section just a little bit more, just so hopefully I can encourage a bit more growth later on. You might have noticed now that I trimmed back some of the taller leaves of the Cryptocoria Wendelsi tropica, you can see some of the Bucephalandra at the back of the aquarium. Some of the Bucephalandra that I planted on the manzanita wood kind of got a little bit lost in the scape. So I hope by harshly trim back the crypts I can start to see these plants again. So that's all the maintenance done. Overall I'm really happy with how the scape's turned out. It's been the first aquascape I've done since being out of the hobby for 10 years now, and the plant growth I got from it has been really good to see. But I have a feeling that the scape's kind of run its course now. I kind of learned what works and what doesn't work in an aquascape from working on this aquarium. I think in the next few months I'm going to rescape this tank. If you guys have any ideas on what kind of style you want me to do, leave a comment below. I'll be interested to see what you think. And just before I end this video, I just want to share a quick stat about my channel to you guys. So far 95% of you guys who watch the channel aren't subscribed. So if you want to help the channel grow, please subscribe and also like this video, it really helps me out a lot.